The roads and Sandra Matters, Mr. Chidoka joins us now. He's the Corps Marshal of Federal Road Safety Corps. Morning and thank you for joining us. As a matter of fact, I already have a question coming through from China saying, what is the job specification of FRSC? Okay, let me start with that. Yeah, maybe we should start with that because, I mean, they see you on the roads, they see you talk about plate numbering, licensing, driver's license. Are these all part of the functions?
Yes, they are part of the functions of FRSC, and I would like to break it down to the United Nations pillars of road safety. We have 5 pillars of road safety that the United Nations have come up with. Road safety management, which says there needs to be a lead agency who brings together all the disparate bodies that work on the road into a cohesive whole. Then there is the issue of safer roads, there is the issue of safer vehicles, then safer road users, and then emergency response. Now, under the lead agency, the management, FRSC comes together, bringing in together all the disparate rules. We make the rules for the road, we make the regulations, we make the highway code, and then we are the organization that brings everybody together on the road. The second one is safer roads. We go out and audit the federal highways and state roads and inform the owners of the roads. These are the problems with your road. For instance, for those who live in Lagos, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the Deeper Life Junction was a junction where the total number of crashes involving tankers in Nigeria, 7% of that occur on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Of this 7%, about 50% of it occurs at the Deeper Life Junction. Because of the U-turn that the trailers are trying to make a U-turn, they underestimate the speed of the oncoming vehicles, and that is why the crashes are always occurring. If you go on to some of the interchanges we have in the country, some of the roads that we are building, you notice that there are no road signs, there are no road markings, because the road builders, first of all, concentrate on building the road. Our job is to make them build roads that are forgiving. All over the world, people have removed the issue of metal barriers on roads. They are using flexible plastic barriers on the road so that the roads will forgive. Human beings are bound to make mistakes, so we need to build roads that are forgiving. Now, it is the work of a third party to look at these roads and advise on what to make our roads safer. The third one is road users, vehicles. In the case of Nigeria, we don't import vehicles, but now we're beginning to see that there are some vehicles that are problematic. If you remember the days of the J5 made by Peugeot, it was FRSC's consistent intervention that made Peugeot stop making the J5 in Nigeria because
it was prone to
the fuel tank was in front near the engine, and every time there was a crash, there was fire incident. Now we have noticed the same trend with Toyota Hiace. I use this opportunity to say that the Toyota Hiace, which they are now being used for the minibus transport, is the biggest killer on our road. We have written a letter to Toyota, their global organization. I haven't gotten a response, but I'm saying that the vehicles are not configured for what we are using them in Nigeria. Every incident of Toyota Hiace accident in Nigeria has led to fire now. So the multiple deaths we are seeing on our roads are coming from Toyota Hiace vehicles. So we are watching closely, and we are going to make a rule now that all commercial vehicles must come with speed limiters. Because 67% of most crashes in Nigeria are caused by speed violation. Delta State is the highest place we are witnessing deaths in Nigeria, and that is the road between Benin and Asaba. Very good road, smooth expressway, but at all the various junctions in Abo, Iseluku, Isela, Asaba, we are seeing rising death trends on those roads. So there's a problem with making sure that there are safer vehicles.
Okay, if these vehicles come with speed limiters,
yes,
it's one thing for them to come with them. It's another for the driver to make use of them. How do you verify?
No, it is installed in the vehicle. You can't, if you tamper with it, what we're going to do is that we're going to find the new devices come with something that you can test to see whether the speed limiter is working. That is, you have to go in and disconnect it. It is inbuilt, it is connected to the vehicle. So once you go above 100, the vehicle stops. Let me tell you, ABC Transport has installed speed limiters in all his vehicles. Since he installed it to date, 0 crashes. His fuel cost has reduced by about 1.8 million monthly. Because that revving of cars, increasing the speed to catch up with speed, leads to burning of fuel. So since he installed it, he made the presentation to us, and it was an interesting case study for us. Since he installed the speed limiters, passengers, okay, complain they are slow, but no crashes. He hasn't lost any vehicle. Because no vehicle owner really wants to lose vehicles, no matter how much money you want to make.
I was going to ask you about the human factor, even with the speed limiters. But the speed limiters there, whether disconnected or not, what happens to the human factor?
Well, if you are driving at 100 kilometers per hour, and let me tell you, I mean, crashes are kinetic forces. At 40 kilometers per hour, you're not likely to be injured. At 70 kilometers per hour, the chances of being injured increases by almost 70%. At 100 kilometers per hour, the likelihood of injury is almost 80 to 90%. But at 120, the likelihood of death is at 100%. So speed is a major determinant of how fatal a crash will be.
And
so if you reduce speed, even if there is a crash, the fatalities will not be as bad as when you're doing 140.
Are you forgetting the road itself, the
now,
infrastructure?
Let's come about the road. I just gave you a statistics now. The highest number of crashes in Nigeria is we're beginning to see a trend in between Benin and Asaba. It's one of the best roads we have in Nigeria in terms of asphalt overlay, good condition. But the crashes are increasing. So the question is, bad roads are not quite causing crashes as much as bad use of the roads.
The crashes here being crashes with other vehicles or crashes
sometimes lone crashes, sometimes crashing with other vehicles, whatever be the cause. But whenever you see trailers tipping over due to bad roads, you see trailers turning up, that can happen with bad roads. But when it comes to crashes that are very fatal, it normally happens on very good roads. Abuja has the highest number of fatalities in Nigeria because of its very good roads. So we will have good roads, it's better, because what happens is that with bad roads, people are slowed down. When they get to the good roads, they try to recover their speed. So in trying to recover the lost time of the journey, they tend to overspeed. So we would like to see a situation where all the roads in the country are good, but at the same time, we then have to deal with the human factor.
So in the meantime, how do you enforce speed limits?
Now, we used to have two major strategies. One was to have vehicles, FRSC vehicles on the road, driving and making sure nobody overtakes them at some critical junctions. So we maintain a 100 kilometer per hour speed, and all the vehicles coming behind are forced to maintain that speed. Now, that strategy worked very well in the past and still work, but unfortunately with the rising fuel costs and issues, we couldn't sustain that long trips anymore, because normally a car will take you from Lagos and maybe gets to Shagamu, hands you over to the Shagamu command, and then turn back again to Lagos. The second one is installation of speed cameras and using speed, limiting equipment. So the speed cameras and will help us to capture the vehicle at what speed it's traveling. But there's a second problem with that. If you don't have the data of the person involved in that vehicle and you don't have his address, you can't follow up with enforcement unless you pursue him. And we have a rule not to pursue vehicles to avoid causing crashes. So that is why we brought the new numbering system to ensure that every vehicle in Nigeria has its details with us. So even if you are driving at night and our cameras capture you over speeding, we can always reach you. We can always book you for the offense, knowing that this vehicle belongs to Mr. Osita Chidoka, so we'll always track down the vehicle owner.
So are these cameras installed across the country?
It's the second stage. By the time in October 31st next year, when all the old licenses have gone and we have the new plate number, the next thing that people are going to see on our roads, and it's going to start by mid next year, are the cameras. The police cameras they've installed in cities like Abuja, we are going to put license plate recognition softwares on them, and then other street cameras we have. So that's our project for next year. Our major concern next year is to move to speed limiting, to move to driver change behavior, and to enforce more the rules on the road.
Are there speed limits?
Oh yes, there are speed limits.
That are made public, as in
very much public, yes.
On the highways, what is the speed limit?
On the highways, if you are going at the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, it's 100 kilometers per hour. Shouldn't do more than 100 kilometers per hour. That's the speed limit. For trucks, it goes down to 80 for different categories of vehicles. But one of the challenges is that even when the speed limits are put on the highway, you find that politicians during political campaigns just put posters on those, speed signs. So we're having a major challenge keeping the speed signs up in the air. So we're thinking of new technologies that will make it possible they will be non-stick. So even if you stick a poster, it will fall off because of the nature of the surface.